Transit from relations. We do that.
So I've got
You see,
4 or 5 feet.
I mean, out there at college there, which is.
Random about it.
The vehicle and you. prove that they're being in the middle of the beehive. They did. They sit them
On the Cedar Trail,
It's like.
coming at me at like 30 miles an hour.
Pick on them. Buses.
My husband literally drove me out of the way and
Just that.
Santi could see a dream.
Maybe it was still.
I don't know.
From
They
your
post
blog?
on Facebook and I post stuff.
We're still small enough communities, we can figure out who the kids are.
Oh, yeah.
You can probably ask your kids, like, there was something that posted, you know, it's like, someone was doing it, you know, divots in the park and blah, blah, blah. I asked my kid, and he was like, I don't know who that was. But I know some of the probably know who they are.
The small group's nice, so join us. But let's go ahead and get started right away. So that we do have some online, okay, we'll give someone a chance to jump online, so we have a quorum to approve our consent agendas, the whole here. So thank you, everyone, for making it out this evening. And if you'll all join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we can. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once we get people on, we can keep them moving with our evening. So thank you all for joining us, joining in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're here. First thing on here is public comment. So if there's anyone in the room who would like to make public comment, or anyone online who would like to, we've got 2 minutes allotted to you. Seeing none, we shall close public comment. And there's jumping on. My hope was to give them just enough time to be here and we'd be ready for the consent agenda so that we can. Okay.
Have a forum to do that. We have our GHG report, which, and our tip, we haven't been able to approve our tip because the GHG report wasn't done, so they kind of all, it's a domino effect. It's our budget, so this is one of those consent agendas that we really need a quorum for. But I guess until they jump on,
We want me to make a motion to skip and come back to the consent agenda?
We can do that. We can just, we're okay with, making a amendment to the,
Order of the agenda.
order of the agenda.
Okay,
Is that a second?
Sure.
Super. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Super. We will consent agenda when we have a full quorum. And we will move on to this is on to the Air Pollution Control Division. Is that correct? Is that where we go into this next? That is written. Dina, are you online? She's not today.
all just one.
Okay.
We've got one more, so we just
Yeah.
need one more to join.
Thank you, Mayor
Elizabeth,
McFaul.
I'm here.
Super. We're just waiting for one more and then we're going to come back to our consent agenda. So we're kind of working through a revised version of the evening.
That sounds good. Thank you.
That is a handout. And she's not here to tell us, but there's someone else who's
She's supposed to be on tonight, so maybe
will still keep flowing with the version of tonight's meeting. The draft is the handout.
She just joined.
she just joined.
She just joined. We're moving fast.
Yeah.
Hi, Dina. Thanks for joining us this evening.
I'm sorry, you guys are moving fast.
We are, Dina, I'm just going to give you the real quick, as soon as we're waiting on a quorum, and once we get the quorum, we might interrupt you so that we can approve our consent agenda. So you're just be prepared for the roll with it version of the evening. So we'll let you go ahead and give us your.
I can do that. Good evening, Dina Boytak here on behalf of Two Roads Environmental. Here's your consultant, and although I am a RAC board member, I'm not acting in that capacity tonight. So joining you with really happy news in terms of the air quality conference that's being held or planned for this fall, the Ozone Exchange Conference. The Air Quality Enterprise met in early June to consider awarding us additional funding, given some suggestions that they had made, and very happy to announce that they gave us more than we asked for. So that's really exciting. So they voted at that time to give us a total award of $300,000. That does partially fund our now 3-day conference. And the total cost estimates to host this conference are estimated now at just south of $700,000. Really importantly, the AQE funding is going to be heavily dedicated towards funding travel costs, or offsetting travel costs for researchers and folks that are going to be presenting at the conference and may have travel costs that they can't otherwise cover. We're also going to be offering scholarships in terms of local governments and community organizations that need help registering to attend the conference. Registration for those folks is estimated at roughly $300 for a 3-day event. And so we think that's a pretty great deal. And we're trying to incentivize them to join us and to join the conversation. Also, really exciting news, we had extended the call for abstracts for the conference. We extended it to June 30th, and I'm very, very happy to report that we've received 61 abstracts and 6 proposed panels, with a good mix of individuals from not only Colorado, but throughout the Intermountain West, representing researchers, consultants, and local, state, and federal agencies. So really excited that we will now be reviewing those abstracts and coming to a point of settling on a more firm agenda for that conference. We have put out a rough program just to kind of paint with a broad brush what those 3 days might look like. Again, that'll be more fully fleshed out as we work through reviewing the abstracts, but we have day 1 as kind of ground setting, talking about air quality planning, the legal requirements, realities, and then we'll have a panel discussion from representing folks from Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, and Utah air quality planning agencies. Day 2 will then transition into air quality research. And given the breadth of and the number of abstracts, that's probably going to spread into day 1 and day 3 as well. So that's going to be the research that's not only completed, but also ongoing. I do note that Dr. Collette with the CSU has he submitted abstracts. We've got several abstracts from CSU and CU Boulder and several organizations from here in Colorado. So that's exciting. Day 3 will be air quality public health communications. So kind of gleaning from what we've learned on day 1 and day 2. We may be continuing to experience high ozone. How do we communicate that to the public, and what does the public want to hear? So there's going to be a good focus on that. Then we will be talking about research gaps. We hope to bring together experts and researchers to kind of talk about, so this is the research that we now understand is ongoing or recently completed. Where are the gaps? Where should we be focusing our time and effort? And then talking about some next steps. So that's the broad brush program for the conference. Any questions about the conference itself?
That's a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, will you be inviting media representatives, TV, print, et cetera, particularly the day 3?
I think that's a great question. I think that's something that we should do. It has not been one of our focus points at this point. So we will definitely take that into consideration. So I do want to highlight that we still need your help in continuing to spread the word about the conference. So if you haven't already, sign up to receive updates. I will drop the link here into the chat in just a minute, but sign up to receive updates, and please continue to share with people the value that you see in this conference. It's important that, we're really leveraging word of mouth to advertise this. We're going to do some more official marketing later on after we have a more firm program, but we really need your help in that. I also want to share really quick, I forgot to mention, we do already have some sponsors that are coming in. And so we're super excited that the Wasatch Front Regional Council in Utah has donated or sponsored some money. And then we also have a pretty significant sponsorship from Clark County, Nevada. And that's the Las Vegas area. But sponsorships are still really important to us. So anyway, continue to help us spread the word. All right, moving on to ozone season monitoring data. So ozone, it was a cooler month. June was a cooler month for us, but we started seeing some higher ozone values later this month. And so as of when I put the report out, there was only one monitor in your monitoring network in Larimer and Weld County that had a fourth max ozone value of 71. So we have a fourth max value over the ozone standard. But this past week, and I think it's related to the wildfires, we have several other monitors that are now kind of joining them. So also Greeley Tower, Mahaffey Park, forgot this one, and Rocky Mountain National Park also, those monitors also have fourth max values of 71. So we're going to continue to monitor that and see how the summer goes, see how these wildfires go. Certainly, heart goes out to folks that are dealing with the wildfires, Utah and on the Western Slope, and then hopefully we get more rain. All right, moving on. So I do want to point out a correction. that I had sent to Elizabeth related to my report given to you in May. That May report made some statements about the RAC reporting information out on how they were using a tool that they had developed and then they had refined to kind of look at the smoke impact, the probability of impact from smoke events. And so I did issue that. I sent that to Elizabeth. But what I want to do is point out a couple of things. The correction highlights that it no longer identifies that RAC provided that update during their May RAC board meeting. But it still references the report that the RAC put out in March of this year. And it corrects the reference table that should be looked at. So referencing table 4.9 instead of table 2-5. But bottom line, the overarching point of the discussion remains the same, that ozone monitors in the Denver Metro North Front Range, ozone non-attainment area, are still expected to exceed the standard, even when you look at the monitoring data with high and moderate probabilities of being influenced by wildfire are excluded. So even if you exclude those days, you still have monitors that exceeded the fourth max. Their fourth max value was higher than 70, and so you're still going to have exceedances there. All right. Lastly, I want to highlight that in other air quality activities on page 4, EPA proposed an action that just came out here. It's called the Ozone Reclassification SIP, or State Implementation Rule. They came out with a clarification, and their intent seems to be to alleviate some of the duplicative requirements that apply when a non-attainment area is subject to 2 different air quality standards, kind of like we are in the Denver metro area, where we have both the 2008 ozone NAAQS, National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and we have the 2015 standard. So on the face, that seems like it might be helpful. However, I will say, having kind of screened the language, the fact that they don't actually include regulatory revisions, they just kind of talk about what they think they're going to do. And it's really a reconsideration of something they've done in a previous action. So bottom line with this one, it's really hard to understand how to comment on this, because while it, on the face of it, it seems like it might be helpful, there are certain control requirements or certain SIP state implementation plan elements that may still need to be satisfied, even if they're subject to an area that's both a moderate non-attainment area and a serious non-attainment area. And so I did talk to some folks at the Air Pollution Control Division. They were still trying to sort through what exactly this action meant. And so with this, I think it would be better to just simply kind of monitor the activity and the comments that are coming in, and let the air quality agencies and the attorneys get involved with this one, and for us to kind of sit back and see what comes out of it. So I am not recommending that this council make comments and submit comments on that action. All right, that is it.
Like,
I think I missed the question.
Well, thank you, Dina. We appreciate your update this evening. Have a happy 4th of
Yes, happy 4th of July. Thank you.
Okay, so we're still waiting. The time it bings, I keep hoping that's someone, but welcome Josie. You're almost as exciting as we were rooting for. Um, we had, Dina gave us her report. The RAC is a written report in your handouts. I do not have anything to report, tonight. We are flying by the seat of our pants, so thank you for everyone and, for all the alternates here tonight. We appreciate, that. And just that, maybe I will say, double check with your town to confirm that you're alternate, even if you think everything's correct, maybe let's make sure that all of our alternates have all of their appropriate paperwork turned in going forward, just in case. And Elizabeth, do you want to give us your report?
All right, thank you, Chair. I included a written report in the packet just because we've had, again, this month have a lot going on. Because really what I wanted to focus on tonight is there's two letters in the packet that I really want to bring to your attention, and I'm asking for your support. One on me signing and then another on the chair signing to submit. The first one is our Intermountain West MPOs are working together to sign a unified letter. The draft is included in your packet as a memorandum, but we would put it in a letter format and the executive directors from all the Intermountain West MPOs would sign it. This letter is to submit comments regarding Build America 250 Act and our support of it, but then also some comments as MPOs, Intermountain West MPOs, that we would like to still have them consider as they're moving this act through the federal process for the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Bill. Just to highlight a couple of the things, you know, we don't really, I would say one of the things that Colorado suffers from a funding perspective is formula funding, and they use old data, and our population is continuing to grow at a higher rate, I would say, than other places. And so, you know, the faster growing regions, we're not always able to accommodate some or receive the increase in funding that other areas receive because the data is just somewhat behind. So we want to always encourage that they're using more current data when they're putting together these formula funds for the regions. Otherwise, I would say it's pretty standard comments that we've discussed before when they were highlighting the bill. We're continuing to monitor when you see PL, those are the planning funds that come to our region. STBG, when you see those funds, those are the most flexible funding source that we receive as a region and that your communities can use. And so we're just continuing to monitor that. There hasn't been a surface transportation bill that I have. Every comment is always, you're not fixing the long-term structural challenges associated with the Highway Trust Fund, which is why then we always get to a continuing resolution every time we do this. And so I'm pretty sure for the last 30 years, that has been a comment in every transportation bill, and it remains one in ours. So in this one, so I wouldn't say that there's anything earth shattering or shocking. This is pretty standard, and it is in alignment, I would say, with the Intermountain West MPOs, I would say are following pretty closely to AMPO, our Association for Metropolitan Planning Organizations, on comments as well. So one of the things would just be, I guess, getting your guys' support for me signing on to that letter with our other MPOs, if you guys were good with it. And it's my first ask tonight. Does anyone have any objections to that? If not, would encourage, yes, let's move forward with this. If you nod of approval. All right, appreciate it. The second one is a letter that I'm really hoping I'm not the first one to bring to your attention. My hope is that your finance directors at your communities have brought this to your attention, because it's very troubling. This would be a letter that the comments are due by July 13th also. The copy of the draft letter is also in your packet. This is regarding the uniform guidance, OMB, Office of Management and Budget at the federal level. the federal financial assistance. This is 2 CFR 200. This is essentially the rules that we have to follow with the Fed, receiving federal dollars as a federal organization. They are talking about changing the OMB guidance to going from a guidance to regulatory for everybody. So while there's some impacts to us as an agency, I would say for your human services departments, they would have to redo their whole finance. So for the counties, it's probably very impactful. Just because typically human service departments operate under their own process for financial dollars. So this would impact them immensely. But included in the draft letter that is in your packet. Commissioner Silverstein.
Welcome, Kristen.
Hello.
Thank you for jumping on. We're going to switch right over while we've got you so that we can just do this consent agenda and then let you exit right away again. So
Thank you.
thank you very much. Did you need to tell us any more about what's in the consent agenda, or are we just moving forward with?
We're good with a motion in a second.
Okay. There,
I move we approve the consent agenda.
okay, a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Super. Thank you very much. Appreciate you jumping on and getting that. And we shall, that was really important tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you also, Mayor McFall, for jumping on and doing that as well.
Glad to help out.
The OMB letter. Some of the things that are being discussed for our 2 CFR 200 is they are essentially proposing that the federal government has the authority to terminate or suspend awards mid-cycle. So if you were awarded a grant, the federal government could come in halfway through and say, no, even though you were awarded, we're taking it back. Oh dear. We don't really know what that looks like or how this would work, but I tried to also include the impact, how it could impact our region if they did some of these changes. So the impact to us would be essentially that they get to abruptly cancel discretionary infrastructure or planning grants that we track or go through our region, which we had somewhat of a similar experience with Fort Collins recently. I would say following what happened to them regarding their raise grant. Was a raise? I feel like it was raised. So they're actually trying to put this into a regulation. That's one example. What's my other? Okay. The other one is that they are essentially going to hire an somebody from the federal government would become a liaison that would have to review and approve everything that would go to our region. So if we apply for something, they essentially would have the veto power as this political appointee, which I'm trying to remember do you remember Becky, what they were calling that person?
Don't remember what they were calling, but it's not just what we apply for, it's also memberships, conferences, publications.
That our organization, yeah, that anything related to the monies, federal monies that we use to manage the NPO.
It falls under the reputational harm.
I'm trying to find the name of that person. Anyway, it's essentially a political appointee that approves everything to our region. The next one is that you don't necessarily have legal authority or administrative power to act as financial guarantors for municipalities. Basically, this would be forcing a level of liability on us also to basically be that authority for the municipality. And, what they're trying to do is that a lot of times, you know, how we pass these federal, we sub-allocate the funds to you as a community. Whether, for whatever the project may be, this rule shifts to a near absolute financial and legal liability for subrecipient compliance, and that failure directly falls basically onto the prime recipient. So we basically have to enforce upon our municipalities the federal rules, which in theory, that's what CDOT kind of does to us, but they would require the MPOs to do it to our local. Every subrecipient, which would be you guys and us, what has to participate in a DHS E-Verify system and enforce strict viewpoint neutral speech policies on any property adjacent to or utilizing federal funds. So in any extensive public engagement networks where you may be speaking not supportively of the federal government, that's our funding. They also want to reduce de minimis dollar threshold contracts exceeding 250,000 before triggering. Oh. Or some of our contracts are, you know, $1 million, things, you know, things like that. So it's not just a burden to the MPO, it's a burden to you and your communities. And I just want to make sure that you guys have it on your radar. These comments are due July 13th. So I would just strongly encourage that each of your agencies, you have your finance directors helping your town boards, city councils, commissioners, putting together letters to submit written comments regarding this guidance. I think the intent behind it, is always to streamline and help get stuff through the process faster. But I think that there's also some other things in here, and essentially what we're asking for in our letter. This is how I phrased it at the end, is that we do want to improve transparency and efficiency in federal financial assistance. We share the goals committed to responsible stewardship of federal transportation funds. We also support streamlining grants and reducing the burden, for contracting. But to ensure this rule supports that implementation for our transportation programs, we're encouraging that OMB extend the comment window or pause the rulemaking to thoroughly evaluate the system impact on our regional transportation planning. What I've been told and what GFOA has, the government finance office and GFOA, I'm gonna forget it, administration. They are saying that this will go very quickly. So depending on the comments that's submitted, and the last I checked, there was over 40,000 comments already submitted. They want the rulemaking, they want it effective October 1. That's why this is so scary, because they're essentially taking this again from a guidance document to a regulatory document by October 1st. So it is definitely a critical path kind of letter, and I would just really hope that you would support either the chair or the vice chair signing the letter so that we could get it sent before July 13th.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'll get with you so we can get this signed so that it's taken care of. And then if you can forward on this letter as well, that we can send it to all of our finance directors as well. I'll encourage towns to participate with additional letters.
Yeah, this to me sounds like political control over funding
Yeah, well, for sure. 100%.
At minimum,
with somebody who's politically appointed that can basically keep sick something.
Yes.
Not right. It's not right.
And so I think the GFOA National Conference in Chicago is like this month. So my guess is some of your representatives are probably attending or participating in some way. I'm thinking they'll get super brief. The problem is these comments are due July 13th. They are closing July 13th so that they can start this rulemaking.
Yeah. The danger is it can go both ways too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
exactly. We've been operating off of two CFR 200. The last time I recall it being modified was 2014 and I only remember because we had the floods in 2013. And in 2014, they did combine some of the rules into one document, but it wasn't like this substantive of a change. This is, it's never been changed, I would say, to this degree that I'm aware of. So this is a lot of changes. A lot. And we really just got notification on June 18th. That's why I said some of your finance departments might not even be aware of it. But if they're connected to GFOA, they probably are. I just wanted to make sure it's on your guys' radar and one, because we want to support submitting a letter on behalf of our organization.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good plan. Any other comments, questions for Elizabeth?
Do you have any other great news for us?
I mean, the team did a great job of putting together core values for the organization. They're gonna go in our job descriptions, so
I love it.
yeah, they're doing great work. Staff's doing a great job.
My future. You guys are doing a great job. And then catching up, I feel like we're already so far ahead of where we were last year for things. So you're just well done, team. Check. So glad you could be here to join us tonight.
Thank you. We're at a very small group. Very more intimate, yes, much more intimate. So it was an exciting month for Front Range Passenger Rail. The general manager's report really focused on our ballot access plan schedule. And part of that, I think the best parts of that are that there is going to be a public branding rollout on next Sunday, July 13th. I think that's 13th or 12th. And so there will be a new website, a branding event, and a launch party. If anybody wants details on that, I can get those to you. And we're also going to we've already done 20 town halls. There'll be another round of 10 over the next month. If you're interested in coming, the next one in Fort Collins will be the 29th. And then one in Loveland on the 30th. Elizabeth, I'll get you that information. There's someone else who's not working on coming, and all I know are the dates. They haven't really, I don't even think they have the locations figured out quite yet. And then next month I guess that's this month, on the 24th, we'll be approving the final delivery plan for passenger rail. And then the following month, we're going to have an in-person meeting down in Pueblo where we will vote on going to the ballot in November. And we will also be at the rail testing center down there, checking out the new Siemens Aero rolling stock that we are hoping we'll be using along Front Range Passenger Rail. Board actions for the meeting, mostly contracts for service for the ballot access plan. We also extended the deadline for the local return program, which if you'll remember, because passenger rail is only good at transportation, we don't really know the local communities. So it's a steady funding stream for 25 years for local communities to build out their station area and put in transit and first last mile connections. There were a couple communities that were having issues reaching the deadline of the end of June. So we've extended that through July so that they can meet those. And then there were applications for Fort Collins and Loveland for the FTA's new pilot program for transit-oriented development planning. They had asked for letters of support, and the board voted in favor of supporting both of those applications. We also talked about fare policy.
on an FAIR, but as an FARE. So we're really looking at how we should price, be pricing fares. And so what the thinking is that will be a little bit higher than Mustang to really highlight our service and the more comfortable travel option with rail, but also looking to how we can build and transfer so that people can have a seamless trip. So how can we work with other transit authorities and programs like SIN to make sure that they can be priced in as part of that ticket price as well? And then talking about reduced fares for which groups, so seniors, disabled, youth, and then also fare products, so multi-ride, getting a discount for that, and also monthly tickets that you can buy, and also having reservations on the train. So
Is there a discount for military?
we didn't discuss that, but that's a good one to keep in mind. And then there'll also be special event pricing, like for the Bronco. So Mustang, instead of being $10, it's $15. So we're looking at what that would be too for those special events. And the other really interesting thing at this meeting is that we will now be adding a station for North Colorado Springs. So with intercity passenger rail stations need to be at least 5 miles apart. Colorado Springs extends over 30 miles, though the downtown location is going to be 15 miles away from those that are living in northern Colorado Springs. And originally the concept was there was going to be a station location at Castle Rock, and they declined a station. So now it's going to be further north at that metro district, Sterling Ranch. So it would have been, I had left a lot of people without a station option. So there's a possibility it might be on the Air Force Academy grounds, which would tie in with their request for a special event stop as well. And then CTIO, I can give you a brief overview. Unfortunately, people was not able to make tonight, and he attended for the two of us. But what it
Can I just ask you, can you tell me the date again? You said that you were gonna vote on going to the ballot?
in August 28th. Polling is good. So next week, I think it's on Friday. I can get you a list of all these things. So we'll be talking about the polling, there'll be a briefing, and so that'll go public. As debt increases, the polling numbers go down, so they're trying to find that sweet spot of where they can take on some debt but not make it too large that there's not public support, but large enough that there's enough funding to move forward with the different phases. Any other questions? Okay. CTIO. You might recall we were talking last month in May about increasing the toll, and the staff had recommended 4.5% based on the consumer price index for the Denver area. And we kind of pushed back on that. You know, we thought that Colorado consumers are being hit a lot right now, and so we wanted that a little bit lower. So that was revised down to 3.6%. And if you are using the toll lane, that increase went into effect yesterday. You may also recall that we are going to look at segments 6, 7, and 8 in the fall because there's just not enough data yet on those segments. The other change that we made is that in segment 2, because the speeds were not where they need to be as federally mandated over enough of a period of time, 45 miles per hour, we are adjusting those toll rates by an additional $1, almost $5. So be aware when you're down there. And then we passed a budget amendment to the 2026-27 budgets. And these were for costs that we hadn't anticipated. There's now CDOT's new central services cost allocation plan. So every division within CDOT has to contribute to the central costs. There's the Pikes Peak area council government feasibility analysis for getting a toll lane down there. We have a courtesy patrol sponsorship program along the I-70 corridor up in the mountains, and anybody who breaks down along there, you can get help. So we all voted in favor of that. And then we are also contributing to the joint services, which is the starter service for Barton's passenger rail for the initial design cost. And then finally, for Mountain Rail, there is the Granby's layover facility that will be built out by November, so we can have year-round rail line up to Granby.
Well, thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions for Jeff? Well, thank you for joining us and bringing us more details. Finance committee is written. Executive summary is written. Mobility program update is written in your handouts.
Maybe I could just point out though,
Yes,
Anya has done an amazing job securing a lot of grant funding, over $400,000 for the mobility program. So check out your mobility updates. There's a lot of good news.
those were highlighted in our finance committee meeting as well. So well done on that. So check that out. Thank you. And that brings us to
Just a comment, the thing that was most notable to me with the finance committee, being in part due to the grant funding that we've been able to obtain, is the fact that the trust fund is not gonna decrease. In past years, it has, and so that's, I think, pretty big deal for the organization, that basically able to generate enough funding that you don't have to dip into your savings. So that's great.
that is great. Thank you for pointing that out. Becky?
Be pretty quick with the recovery that we have. So every 4 years, the FHWA and FTA jointly conduct an organizational review for MPOs that are designated as TMAs. So those are MPOs that have over 200,000 in population, which we do in the Fort Collins, Loveland, Berthoud TMA, which also has portions of Timoth and Windsor. For our certification review this year, it was conducted on April 29th. It was an all-day meeting with FHWA and FTA staff, as well as Holt, Gas, and Transport staff participation. So we spent the whole day together talking about a variety of different things. And so following the review, they did find that we are compliant. And we are compliant with these USC and CFR codes here. I won't read them, but those are the ones we're compliant with. And this certification is effective June 14th of this year through June 14th of 2030. So we're good for 4 more years. We did get 1 commendation. So since I've been here, we've only gotten 1 commendation in the previous report. So this is another commendation that we've gotten. So that's documenting our standard operating procedures. So that is something that we're working on. And then we got a series of recommendations. So they want us to align our TIP amendment process with a online TIP versus a paper document, and how do we integrate that? That was a lot of their comments. Again, integration of the web applications and traditional publishing. So how do you say this is the document when we have one online, but then we have this one that's printed, but this one can't change, but that one can. So just working through that process. Making sure we reflect the inflation rate and year of expenditure calculations in the TIP and the RCP. So that is a question that we've been asking your staff to give to us for the projects that we're working on. Functional classification system, they did not like that we called our travel demand model roadways network, our functional classification system, to FHW and FTA. That is a very specific finite grouping of roadways, so we just work. And then our unified planning work program funding tables, simplifying that, and making it less of a budgeting document, so we don't have to update it as much. And that's something that Elizabeth has already started. But these are things that we need to work on over the next 4 years, which I think will get implemented really within the next 18 months or so. And the document itself is a special 250 cover, and so that will be on our website afterwards.
We're the only one in the state.
The only one in the state that gets the special covers.
That's super special.
It looks very nice and covered. Yeah, this is fun. If there's any questions?
Anyone have questions for Becky? Becky had mentioned the tip in there. I will just let you guys know, we did receive an email this week from CDOT notifying us that they are going to support our SPR request that we submitted, which included $30,000 towards an electronic tip, buying software for an electronic tip. So once we get that contracted, we'll figure out a way to start trying to now implement an e-tip. So when you guys look at the tip table that you get every month to approve, Jonathan is creating those in Excel. We're looking at moving towards something similar to what the state has just implemented from an electronic tip format. And then we can hopefully streamline tying those in to talk to each other and make it more 21st century. I don't know. There's probably a better word there. But so we're excited some of the funding that we're receiving to be able to accomplish some of these things that we have to do on a daily basis. I don't know, maybe Jonathan is happy. Yeah. We just got these now.
That's his happy face.
So that will all, so that comment that you were talking about, we'll also be having to update, we'll update the our tip to reflect how we're doing public comment and integrating all of that from an electronic tip perspective now. Not so much concerned about what they said about our current one.
Thank you, Becky. Jerome, tell us more. Let's roll with it on all levels. There you go.
It's testing our patience. So just real briefly, our agenda for this subject, we'll begin with the reaching significant corridor criteria. This referring to the roadway criteria. We will then go into our regional active transportation corridors that you all adopted in the May Planning Council meeting as part of the regional active transportation plan. We will then discuss the proposed regional transit corridors and then finish it off with looking at our roadway corridors. So to begin, we can discuss the RSC criteria. So RSCs include roadway corridors which meet the following criteria. So all interstates, US and state highways are automatically part of our RSC network. For the municipal facilities, they also have to qualify for the following. So being eligible to receive federal aid, so that is any roadway that's on the national highway system. And to be eligible for federal aid, it has to be an urban collector or a rural major collector or any classical I don't know why I can't functional, thank you, classification above that. They must cross more than one jurisdiction or connect to an activity center. So an example of that could be Prospect Road. The current RSC is just within the city of Fort Collins, but it does provide key connections to CSU, which is a major activity center in the region. They will have to be complete by 2055. And then, of course, they have to serve regional traffic. Next slide. So just as a reminder of our current regionally significant corridors, we have our one interstate highway, I-25, our 5 US highways, US 84, US 85, US 287, and then US 34 and US 85 business. We then have our 6 state highways, and I do know there is one listed in local facilities. There's a reason for that. So for the state highways, that's State Highway 392, State Highway 14, State Highway 257, State Highway 60, State Highway 56, and State Highway 1. And then we have our local facilities. And State Highway 402 is listed as a local facility. That is because it is also in conjunction with Freedom Parkway with the entirety of the corridor. So that does fall under local facility as well. But that corridor segmented B. So we can begin with our active transportation corridors. As I mentioned earlier, these are the corridors that were adopted by Planning Council in May. And as part of this process, we did do a RSC workshop with the Technical Advisory Committee in April, and they had no additional comments on these corridors. And then when this was brought back to the Technical Advisory Committee in May, we also did not receive any additional comments. These are the exact same corridors that were adopted in the active transportation plan. Next slide, please.
Question about, can you, White County Road 74 in Harmony? I don't see it.
So, yeah, so these are,
Am I missing something?
well,
The trail that's parallel with 70 to Harmony is what it's saying.
there, so in that, are you referring to the Cooter Trail along Harmony?
No.
You guys have a multi-purpose trail essentially parallel to
Okay,
on the north side, right?
it's okay. Go ahead.
It might be a question that when we're going through this, you know, maybe, I don't know if the communities are identifying,
Are you talking about on RSC? These are the regional.
Yeah, these are the
Right.
no,
trail.
I know, he's talking about, they're putting in like 8 or 10 foot sidewalks, I don't know what they're doing, parallel to
Oh,
74 through the Timnath area that connects to that open space. through Park.
It's okay.
I just didn't know if the communities were looking at doing it all along 74. So maybe that's part of the plan when you guys are going through the Harmony corridor. Maybe that's one of the things you guys, the communities could be looking at. When I say that to Smith and Fort Collins, they're gonna do that joint. 74,
Safety.
yeah,
The safety.
maybe that, the discussion of a trail adjacent to it would be part of that.
I could say to that for context, I did discuss that with town attendant staff when we were going through the active transportation plan. But there was no other community that was doing that level of active transportation planning along the corridors that did not elevate it to become a RATC. Now, if there is a case where other communities surrounding are doing that, we can make edits to this for the this RDP, even though we did just adopt the corridors. If there is any change in plans or any,
It might come out of, the safety plan and with Fort Collins.
then that is something, depending on the timing, we could include either in this plan or in the next iteration
Yeah.
of the active
Got it.
transportation plan.
Yep.
But I can note that to track, so that once we do know more information, we can incorporate it into whichever plan is timely. And then this is just listing out the names. They wouldn't all fit in one slide.
Yeah.
Slide, please. So these are our regional transit corridors. So to begin, the green line, that is listed as new, that's not referring to service, that's referring to corridor. And we did have 2 corridors that the Technical Advisory Committee recommended that we add to our regional transit corridor network, and that is the line called B, so that is on State Highway 402 between Loveland and Evans, and then Colorado Boulevard from Johnstown up to Will County Road 74 and Timnath. So both of these corridors were identified in the Link NOCO Phase 1 study, but they were not advanced into the final 3 that got a little bit more, where they looked into it a little bit more deeply, but these were some of the corridors that were identified as part of that. Want to know between the corridors is that including it onto as part of our regional corridors does not guarantee service, nor does it, the council would not be signing up for funding or would not be guaranteeing that is happening. What this would be saying is that these are two corridors that could benefit from transit. We would look more into it, and that these are corridors where we could, with the right amount of planning, anticipate transit by 2055. So this will not be making any commitments for transit within the next 5 or 10 years. This will be all the way out to 2055. And then the other major edit that we've done with this corridor, we did remove one. So with the last RTP, we did not know which front range passenger rail alignment was moving forward, whether it be the BNSF alignment or I-25. Since we now know what that alignment is, we did remove the I-25 corridor since we know that is not advancing. And then, as you can see here on the map, we have existing service, and that's self-explanatory. We have future transit service. This is service that has been identified that are in local plans along regional corridors or providing access to key activity centers like CSU, front passenger rail, and the regional service that is referring to any service that came out of the Link NOCO phase 1 study. So if the are approved, they would be classified as regional service.
Can I ask a quick question? You said you removed I-25, but wouldn't Mustang service along I-25?
Yeah, so I-25 had two, so it had the Mustang service and then the front range passenger rail service. We removed the front range passenger rail service. So I-25 is still identified for Mustang, but it's not identified by front range passenger rail. So before we go on to our roadway network, are there any comments, questions, or concerns on the regional transit corridors? And again, this is listing them out by name. And then we can see RTC B and C will be identified as regional service. And they're very creatively named. State Highway 402, Loveland Evans, and then Colorado Boulevard, Johnstown to Will County Road 74. Next slide, please. So these are our proposed 2055 regionally significant corridors. And we do have quite a few updates and changes to these corridors. So the biggest one is we are recommending the addition of a new corridor, and that is First Street / Larimer County Road 20E / Ronald Reagan Boulevard. So that is that, at which I had a pointer that could actually be seen on the screen, but that is that green line by the A that goes eastbound. It begins at RC 18. Thank you. Not that. East west. Yeah. Hopefully they'll show up. The more you know. Thank you. This one here, so it would begin at RSC number 18, which is not Tapton Road, wrong community. Wilson Avenue in Loveland would continue eastbound in through southern Loveland until I-25, would cross I-25 into Johnstown, and would end at RSC 14, which is Larimer County Road 3, Will County Road 9.5. So then we do have a few other alignment updates. The first one is also around here. So extending RSC number 18, which is Wilson Avenue in Loveland, southbound to State Highway 402 Freedom Parkway, and then extending the Freedom Parkway alignment to here to round it out. These alignments already do exist. They were just not identified as part of the regionally significant corridor. This is not saying that any additional roadway would be built for those two corridors. Another change we that we included is Will County Road 17. We had it ending here at Crossroads Boulevard. So we extended that northward towards its northern terminus at State Highway 392, and that is 7th Street and Windsor. This also follows the alignment of RITC number 13, which is begins in Johnstown and ends at, State Highway 14 in Severance. So we made that update to bring those two corridors in alignment. And then just for clarification, because we did discuss this in TAC and there were some questions. State Highway 257 does enter and then runs concurrently 392 before it continues southbound here. We did add that to provide some clarification on which corridor is which. Another change that we did see was with Prospect Road, so extending it westbound to, this is Taft Hill in Fort Collins, and then eastbound to State Highway 257. And then the last major update is, this is our RSC, too many acronyms. RSC number 17, which is long name, Larimer County Road 17, Shield Street, Taft Avenue, and Berthoud Parkway. So up here, this is Shield Street. So continuing it eastbound to number 16, which is Timberline Road, Larimer County 7, and Larimer County 9. So with that, are there any questions, comments, or concerns on the proposed 2055 RNCs?
This is probably the most important map, one of the most important maps that we have to do as part of our regional transportation plan. It determines everything we have to model, everything we have to do air conformity determination on. It's national criteria for pretty much our region. So,
But it's impressive that there's not, I mean, like your proposed updates, and this is not a drastic, so.
Fortunately, a lot of the roadways that are region significant have already been identified. And then with RCA, that came out as discussions between Loveland and Johnstown on how to get additional connectivity crossing I-25. We do know I-25 is a significant transportation barrier in our region. So this is, the goal is, if this is being fully built out, is have that be regional. So we do know that, one, most of the growth in the region is going to be in this central part at I-25 and US 34. And we're going to see more and more congestion along US 34 and parallel corridors as we see these populations move in. And I do not have a next step slide, but next step will be bringing this back to the Technical Advisory Committee in July to clarify some things and make sure that everything is included, and then we'll be bringing this back to you all in September with approval, I believe, in October.
Well, thank you, Jerome. Appreciate all your work in that. Kayla, you're up next.
Thanks for a few minutes, but then I have a live demonstration at the end, so I will go back to the computer for that. But tonight, what I'd like to discuss with you all is we have been developing a regional crash dashboard tool. So before I kind of dive into the dashboard itself, I just want to kind of remind everyone, I constantly, or I guess consistently hear from the TAC and you all, the Planning Council, that safety is a top priority for this region. It is one of our top priorities. And then a little bit of background, back in early 2025, the Planning Council tasked me with trying to compile and analyze more current crash data than what we get from CDOT currently. I will be coming back to discuss with you all some more findings from all the research I've been doing. Spoiler, that's going to be a very long, difficult process, but more on that on another night. Through that effort, we identified a need for a centralized, user-friendly kind of tool to make crash data more accessible and easier to understand. really, this is because, crash data in its current format, it comes in a spreadsheet from CDOT and it has a column for latitude and a column for longitude. So unless, if you are a GIS mapper, you can't put that yourself onto a map. So it takes, time at you guys' organizations, whether it's your staff or consultants that you hire to process that crash data to even get some simple answers on where crashes are happening in the region or for certain studies. So
Which doesn't sound very complicated, but just from a crash report perspective, to give you guys an understanding, is every agency uses a different crash report, and CSP has been standardizing theirs, and it would be great if we could get everybody to standardize crash report, to even include GPS, to include, those locations so that you can linear reference. Otherwise, your agency is basically plotting a dot on a map and it might not be the location of the crash.
Yeah, GPS coordinates would be clear.
Which again, sounds very simple.
it's not.
It's not.
So, really, this dashboard was developed, to improve access to, transportation safety data and really more so beyond the technical people that can actually process the data. This allows even members of the public or you all as elected officials to be able to look at this data yourself and begin to understand it. This also supports informed transportation, planning and decision making. It will assist with regional, safety initiatives and, kind of safety. And then it also helps advance the MPO's towards zero dot safety vision that was adopted in 2020. It hits quite a few of those, kind of goals that were identified in that resolution adopted by the Planning Council in 2020. And when developing this dashboard, it was really shaped through feedback from TAC as well as, staff from all organizations, in the MPO region, and then other regional partners that, may want to use this data. We also reviewed crash dashboards from other MPOs, counties, and cities from across the country to inform the dashboard's functionality and overall design. The final project looks really similar to the Denver Regional Council of Governments dashboard. I actually got to meet with them a few times to ask them, hey, how did you, program this into the dashboard? How did you process the data to get it to look like that? So I really appreciate their help and support. And I also just want to pause and say I did the first couple of iterations of the dashboard, but our intern at the MPO, his name is John, he helped a lot as well throughout this process. So I want to give him credit as well for things too. And then for the dashboard features itself, it consolidates the crash data provided by CDOT. So people can explore crash trends, locations, contributing factors, and characteristics using 32 different filters to look at the data. And the data itself can then be viewed through an interactive map, charts, graphs, and summary statistics. And then our staff went ahead and enhanced the data that we get from CDOT with some additional like regional context or what we really felt was important for us to understand. Two examples I have of that is whether a crash occurred on a regionally significant corridor. So I'll show you all in a little bit what that looks like. And then we also, another example is we added a filter that allows you to look at crashes within a quarter mile of a school. So really, I would say that kind of the feedback I got, because originally this was just going to include fatal and serious injury crashes, because that's in alignment with our federal safety performance measures. When talking with TAC members and staff from member agencies, they told me that this can be really important to look at all crashes, because whenever they are processing crashes for their own studies or within their own communities, they're not always looking at what's just beyond their borders. And if a roadway looks the same, you know, right around where, let's say a city line ends, a crash could have easily have happened within their city versus outside of it. Additionally, I'll give an example. When I was speaking with the city of Fort Collins, they explained to me, yeah, we use more current data whenever we're looking at things. However, our current data includes nothing from CSP and nothing from Larimer County. So that's a little bit of a gap. So if there's a tool where we can look at all crashes from all organizations, we can start to see the full picture a little bit better without going through the process of processing the CDOT crash data as well themselves.
That also sounds like a very simple, like, should be, but a data sharing agreement with each law enforcement agency is very difficult. I don't even know that the MPO has been able to get that. So, you know, I don't know how as a region, you know, we talk about safety and we talk about data and us all wanting to use the most current available data. Every agency has their own data and they don't necessarily share their data. And I mean, understandably so from a law enforcement perspective, right? So it's one of those, as you know, regional agencies, how can we, you know, the information we're sharing, give you guys the best available data so that you can make informed decisions when we can't get it from all of your communities.
And that was gonna be one of my questions, is how you're getting the data that you used to put together your dashboard, and then how do you plan on being able to keep that updated? So,
Yeah.
2 questions.
Yeah. So the data itself comes from the CDOT data, which is
So it's only CDOT, right?
only CDOT right now. For us to be able to put in like more current data from the communities, right now in the entire MPO region, there are only 4 communities themselves using more current data to make decisions out of our 15 counties and cities.
And what's one of those?
One of them is there.
Just a plug here.
So that makes it really difficult to compile more current data when less than a third of MPO communities even use it themselves. So like I mentioned earlier, getting that more current data will be a very, very long process. It's not going to be easy, but again, I will come back to you later and discuss that a little bit further. Sorry, what was the second part of your?
Oh, and how you plan on being able to continue, you know, so I guess that basically you said it comes from CDOT now. Do you hope in the future that maybe being able to get agreements with people, or that, you know, that's, once you create a dashboard, that's great, but then how is it continually updated? You know, because I'm like, right now it's, well, the most current it's gonna be, which is 2024 data, you know, something like that, you know, so. I don't know, I'm just guessing. I'm waiting for her to tell me.
Is considered a current track.
It's 3 years stuck in my head somewhere.
But yeah, I mean, crash data, people can do it anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. The dashboard currently includes data from 2022 to 2024. Since we processed all crashes, that was a lot. So we wanted to be efficient with our time. Our plan is kind of each fall, as we get another year of data from CDOT, to go ahead and add that additional year on. I think our long-term goal is to at least keep, 5 years of data within the dashboard. But once we kind of hit 5 years of data, we'll determine, do we keep the older years or do we want to remove them? That's a
So CDOT, where do they get their data? Do they get their data from state patrol?
It's a really complicated process. So, law enforcement agencies, fill out information about the crash. They have a crash report form. Some people do it electronically. Some agencies are still paper copies. And then from there, that gets submitted to the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue is the state's official record keeper of the crashes, so they get it first, and then they, are trying to figure out like, hey, there's this issue with some of the data. They work with the law enforcement agency it came from to correct some of that. After that, CDOT then gets the data, and then they do additional cleaning. They add additional kind of columns or fields to the data from there, continue to clean it up, and then that is why it takes so long for all of us to get the data from them. And why right now.
Does it ever feel passionate about running a bill through our legislature
That's
about
what I'm thinking, really.
making the data go through CDOT and not DOR?
Yeah.
So it's scrubbed first by DOR, who are not transportation people,
Right.
and then giving it to the transportation people already
Makes
scrubbed.
sense to me.
Yes, I know, but do you, revenue also oversees all the CDL programming. As working as a state tester, I go through them.
Yeah, I don't understand why, but, okay.
I second that.
Michaela?
That was the really short answer. There's, of course, lots of other different pieces and organizations that are also helping, keep the records, but, that's the very short answer and
Yeah,
why
I
it
mean,
takes so long.
the problem is without really good current data that's complete, it's hard to make informed, data-driven decisions because you're making decisions based on
Old data.
incomplete data.
Old data.
And, well, if it's 24, okay, yeah, it's a few years old, but I mean, there are a lot of things that are missing, right?
Day and age with technology, you will
It shouldn't
think
be this way.
They could just put
Right.
it directly into the dashboard.
we should be able to get the data,
Just like,
real-time data. It's unbelievable to me. CDOT is probably so sick of me making this comment, it's stacked, I can't even begin to tell you. Like, how in this day and age can we not get a real-time data?
you're trying to adjust the
Now,
crossbars
see-
or stop signs, are they being effective? Well, I don't know, let's wait several years to get the data, you know?
CDOT stat has created a dashboard as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're also trying to get more current data going through that dashboard in a timely manner also.
Yeah, the caveat with their dashboard is there are no dots on a map. You can only, select a filter. I want to see what's happening in Larimer County, for example, and it gives you the total numbers, but you don't see where it's happening in the county. Or you can select, I want to see what's happening in Timna, and you see the total numbers, but you don't see where it's
Oh,
happening.
and yeah,
double
my
count.
bet is you don't see the total numbers. You see CDOT's version of the numbers.
Yes,
That's-
highly scrubbed.
You wanna show?
Yeah, I can get into actually showing off the dashboards in a minute.
So if you can't have real-time data, what would you prefer? Like a file every month,
What do you mean from?
Instead of.
crash data?
I think it would be really nice to start with twice a year. Would you give me data, preferably at least like the serious injuries and the fatalities, because those are in alignment with our federal performance measures that we do. But I also want to caveat and say that those crashes take the longest to get a complete report on, because it could be months before an investigation is done, or what the result is, so it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I know Timoth, when there's a significant injury, Timoth doesn't really do the investigation. They have a crash team that comes in, does it in the report, usually, depending on serious the accident is, it could take quite a while to get the final report.
Yeah. So,
I mean, 6 months or maybe a year.
yeah, so you think in theory, oh yeah, it would be so easy to get that so quickly.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of.
And especially if there are legal consequences, the investigation can really get dragged out quite a while.
So this is the dashboard. I would highly recommend if you don't want to explore it yourself. It's a lot easier on a bigger screen, of course, because there's a lot of different features to it. So when you open it up, you see this map here in the middle. You've got a few of your filters up here on the top, as well as a lot more here on the left side of the screen. In addition to that, you've got kind of some high-level numbers here that tell you the total number of crashes, the crashes with injuries, the crashes with fatalities, the total injuries, and the total fatalities. As you start to select filters, these numbers will change as well with what you selected, as well as the map will start to kind of only show what you filtered. Additionally, there's a few different tabs here on the right that as you filter the data will update with certain information. Those are kind of the graphs, the charts, all that information. So we've got crashes by month, crashes by time of day. So it's kind of by like the hour of the day it occurs in. We've got a tab on how, so it's type, contributing factor. We've got a tab for why. Like I said, it's easier to look at on a bigger screen because you can see the full name. But this is the road condition, so that tells you if it's dry outside, it's wet, icy, location description. So roadway, if they've gone off to the right side, things like that. The lighting condition, so if it's daylight, it's dark, and then weather condition. We've got a tab for what we call our vulnerable road users. So it'll tell you, bicyclists, pedestrians, scooters, all those things as well as additional items here. And then
What's your definition of personal conveyance, Michaela?
sure.
Okay, so it's a different, yeah, okay.
So it can really vary, and I want to give a caveat that with the CDOT data, we don't get access to the crash narrative, which gives the description of the crash. So oftentimes some of that additional information lives in there. And so sometimes it's like, I don't actually know what happened in this crash because I can't look at the description of what happened. Oftentimes it's taken out of public records because it can include like personally identifiable information. So people at state agencies or like law enforcement agencies are able to use those and view those. At the time it comes to like something public facing, you don't include your narrative that would include that sort of information. And I also can't look at the narrative to clean the data any better. So yeah, not a great answer, but honestly unknown. And then the last tab here has the top 5 intersections based off which you're filtering for crashes. So I wanted to give a quick demonstration. I know one of the features I had mentioned was you can filter by regionally significant. So I'm going to use US 34 as an example here today. So when I click to look at just US 34, you can see this here on the right has now updated what I filtered. This here is updated what I filtered. And then you're able to, if you want, zoom in and look at where these crashes are happening. So let's say if you wanted to improve safety along the corridor.
Just marker on that line and say that the high drive.
Yeah.
There's a little gap.
Like we're missing.
Like across the street.
That's a good point. The 34 business might fill in that little bitty gap that we're seeing on this.
So this is looking at like all crashes, for example. I could also add a second filter to this and look at all crashes on US 34 that substance involved. So whether that be alcohol, marijuana, or some sort of other drug. then we get that down to 111 crashes, with 10 of those being fatalities. Before looking at all crashes, there were 24 fatalities on US 34. Well, 10 of them, or over 40% of them, involved some sort of substance.
And I'll just remind you, you know, when you have a substance involved, that's not considered an engineering type of crash, right? And so you're saying that that could have been avoidable, so they don't get to count that necessarily as a fatality for needing improvement in that location. So that goes back to what are the campaigns our region is doing to help promote trying to modify behavior so that people aren't drinking and driving, or, you know, what have you.
So you're not allowed to use grant funds towards that then? Is that the case? I mean, I could still see where the cable barriers would be huge, whether it's substance or sober. Or trees, or, you know, any of those type of things. Because
They're just looking at them as they could have been avoidable. Like if you weren't using or you weren't drinking, you wouldn't have crashed. So they wouldn't need to do anything. So, and I'm sure there's an engineer on the call that can speak better to this, but I think it's one of those things where, yeah, we have these crashes and these might be more, what are the safety campaigns we do? If we don't have engineering fixes for these types of crashes, then we need to look at more of a safety programming, you know, helping promote or re-promote some of the safety campaigns that are already out there.
So on the right, again, update as you go through the data. So let's say if you're speaking to your law enforcement agency about when should they be patrolling in certain areas for, let's say like drug or alcohol use, you could see like, hey, this really peaks. 8 p.m. You know, just an example.
Closing.
Substance being involved now. And then one more thing I wanted to show, we have one for, it's the most significant injury. So thinking about our federal performance measures, we look at serious injuries and fatalities. And so let's say if you wanted to look at crashes that involve those only, you could, you know, start to, you know, zoom in, see where they're happening, look at these different tabs to see, you know, what's the top crash type for serious injuries and fatalities along US 34. So we call an approach turn crash. Aggressive driving is the top contributing factor, that's reported by officers for serious injuries and fatalities along US 34. And so we start to kind of look through the different tabs to see what's going on for different conditions for crashes.
Broadsides are the ones we want to look at trying to fix, right? Those are the ones where you're usually getting that are the most dangerous. And so when you see a high amount of broadsides, that's when you're starting to say, okay, what do we need to really be looking?
Yeah. This is what I have to show to you all tonight. 32 filters is a lot, so we're not gonna walk through all of them. I just wanna say that, you know, this can be a great tool to start to explore these. This is one of the tools in the toolbox, that you all can use. You know, it's not the end all be all, you know, of course, go beyond the information in this dashboard, you know, talk with your staff, you know, continue to do further analysis and, for this, like, kind of like file that we use with the points in it, you know, we've kind of already processed the data from CDOT. If anyone at your agency, you know, ever wants to do additional analysis of that, we're happy to provide, you know, kind of the shapefile layer that we've used so they can already work with stuff that's already partially been processed by us. But yeah, just some next steps is that next week, we will be officially publishing the dashboard, putting it on our website. And then when it comes to updating the data, like I mentioned, the tool will probably have to go offline once a year in the fall while we're actively putting, you know, new data into the dashboard. hopefully it should only be, you know, a couple of weeks that it's down. The goal is 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks, just depending on what issues come up as we try to update it. We'll do our first update this fall when we get 2025 data and let you all know how that goes. We're also open to any sort of suggestions on improvements to the dashboard to be implemented whenever we update it next time in the fall. I know I just showed it to you, so you may not have recommendations right now, but.
Yeah, so I've been involved with, large data sets and I have I essentially have the same software looking at your database that's being modified while you keep this one live, and then when you're ready to switch over, once you've got all the bugs out of the data and updated, then you just do a switch of and update the database. You could probably avoid your downtime.
Our IT can help us with that.
Yeah. I mean,
That's how they did our website and built our website.
yeah,
Same
it's
exact
a
thing.
kind of a standard procedure, so you should be able to avoid that downtime.
But it, you know, as you guys, it's a lot of information but
It is.
it really helps your communities. I think if you need a quick on your regionally significant corridors or,
I'm-
zoom into your community, like zoom,
Yeah,
just
I'm
zoom into
looking
one
forward-
community.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, just a high level, it gives you an idea just where in your community, maybe some of the crashes I think what we would, based on what Michaela just said, have your staffs, let us know if you use it, if you do think it's useful, if you don't think it's, if you don't think it's useful, why you don't, if you're already doing your own stuff, great, but this is where I'm going back to, every community is doing their own safety action plan. And we're trying to figure out as a region how we're all talking to each other as what our priority is for our safety for our region. When everybody's doing their own plan. And so, if this can be a tool that is beneficial to the communities, it'd be great to know that it is, or at least that it gives you just a quick, high level view of what's occurring in your area. I think Michaela and John, I mean, they've done a great job trying to give you this snapshot and put this together. So as you guys and your staff are going through it, if you have feedback, we'd really appreciate it.
You're doing a presentation to the town. I mean, they
Yeah. Yeah, they've seen it quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So it's gonna be live and everybody can start playing with it and
yeah,
let us know.
So the southern boundary there looks like it ends before it gets to Gilchrist on 85, is that
It's
correct?
the MPO region.
No, but I don't know the MPO region,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's my question.
yeah.
There's that stoplight, no. That stoplight is interesting because every time it's foggy,
At the school, at 42.
people will just rear end at highway speed because they don't expect somebody to be parked at a light and said that.
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great job. Lots of
I
information there.
see a lot of dots there.
There's probably dots all along the coast.
On it.
Okay, Jerome, GOPM.
Let me make sure I say it. Discussing the RTP vision statement, goals, objectives, and performance measures. Targets will come later. So first we'll begin with the vision statement. And the vision statement is the overarching themes that run through the entire plan. This outlines what the vision of the plan is. So here on the left, this is the vision statement from the 2050 RTP, and it is ensure the multimodal transportation system in northern Colorado is safe, socially and environmentally sensitive, and strengthens the region's quality of life and economic vitality. So on the right, as NPO staff, we work them collaboratively. So this incorporates feedback we've gotten from all staff members buying into one big vision. So the proposed vision statement for the 2055 RTP is connect northern Colorado communities through a safe, efficient, and integrated multimodal transportation system that supports vibrant communities, is environmentally sensitive, and strengthens the region's quality of life and long-term economic vitality. Before we go on to the GOPM, are there any questions or comments on the vision statement? So what is GOPMT? So it is an acronym that stands for Goals, Objectives, Performance Measures, and Targets.
Don't have enough.
We can use a few more.
Sure.
Oh, don't worry, more's coming. So goals address the key desired outcomes for the region and are the first step in supporting the vision statement. So if we're looking at this as a, say, pyramid, I would say triangle pyramid, same thing. The vision statement is, let's see if I can do this analogy right. The vision statement is at our top. Then we have our goals that support the vision statement. Objectives are needed to support and accomplish the established goals. So we're moving down a level to where the objectives support the goals. We then have performance measures, which is an expression used to establish targets and assess progress toward achievements of goals and objectives. That helps support our objectives, which supports our goals and then vision statement. And then targets, which is the base that supports everything from above. Next slide, please. So we do have 5 goal areas that are spread between 2 slides. One thing I do want to note before we get into the goals is that these are not listed in any particular order. This is just listed in some random order. For the last RTP, we did prioritize the goals, we being Planning Council, so that if that is something that is of interest, that is something that we can do when this is brought back to Planning Council in a future month. So we can begin with goal area 1, safety. And the corresponding objective is improve safety for all users of the transportation system with a focus on protecting vulnerable populations and working toward the elimination of serious injuries and fatalities. Goal area 2 is health and environment with the corresponding objective of reduce the transportation system's impact on regional air quality by promoting sustainable travel options, improving system efficiency, and supporting environmentally responsible infrastructure in the region. Goal area 3 is transportation choice with the corresponding objective of provide safe and convenient access to a variety of transportation options that meet the diverse needs of all users. Next slide, please. Goal area 4, operations and efficiency with the objective of optimize system performance through coordinated planning, data-driven decision-making, and the integration of smart technologies to reduce congestion and improve travel reliability. And then goal area 5, economic development, with the corresponding objective, support regional economic development by funding multimodal transportation connections to key destinations, supporting efficient freight movement, and improving access to jobs, services, and markets. And then similar to the vision statement, these goals and objectives were collaborative, did come out of a collaborative effort amongst NPO staff, and we did incorporate feedback from all across the agency. So with that, are there any questions, comments, or concerns on the proposed goals and objectives? Next slide. I'm not kidding. Next slide. So next we'll go into our regional performance measures. And just a little bit of context, we have been adopting goals, objective performance measures, and targets since the adoption of the 2040 RTP in 2015. These are our regional performance measures, and they're designed to reflect our regional priorities that are not covered by federal performance measures. So unlike the federal performance measures, which those are safety targets, those are bridge condition, pavement condition, we have some CMAC performance measures. Those are required by federal law. We have to set those targets, and those targets are set either in conjunction with CDOT, or we can set our own regional targets. Those are targets where we have no choice to set them. We have no choice on the wording. With the regional performance measures, those are determined by the region for the region. Those are not federally required. So the data NPO staff works through, NPO staff set the target, and ultimately it is planning council in the region that determines how we use that data and how we use that to inform our transportation planning process. And then the recommended regional performance measures were developed based on the 2050 RTP regional performance measures and feedback from the Technical Advisory Committee. This was also another collaborative effort across the agency. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of a reminder what our current regional performance measures are. They are population within paratransit and demand response service area within the NFRMPO boundary, fixed route revenue hours per capita within service areas, non-motorized facility miles per capita, percent of non-single occupancy vehicle or SOV commuter trips, daily vehicle miles traveled per capita, projects requiring more than one extension. That is referring to the MPO's tip delay review. So that measure is looking at projects that go to second, third, we've never gone fourth delay, but any delay past that. Travel time index on regionally significant corridors. And this is a congestion measure. And what it does with travel time index is it looks at the average peak travel time over the free flow travel time and then comes up with a ratio. And that ratio, the larger the number, the more congestion there is. So ideally you want 1. Most roadways are not 1. And then percent of devices connected by fiber on regionally significant corridors.
That's your signal timing, your intelligent transportation systems, which is signal time. So that all your signals are speaking to each other so that the traffic's flowing.
And we are, Tim mentions, got every signal connected to fiber now.
That's great. Awesome.
So we're in the
But finding.
all 6 of them. Or 7.
Like the fiber gaps in our region, right? How do we help focus then funding on maybe helping those areas where the gaps are? Yeah.
It's the same back-end system as you have to coordinate on for CDOT. May not.
What? Except for CDOT, the caveat and everything.
It's 2055 RTP regional performance measures. This one's also split out between 2 slides because we have included quite a few more. So the first one, we are keeping this one, the population within, I've already read it, we're keeping that one. The second one, fixed route revenue hours per capita within service areas, we are keeping as well. We are proposing changing our active transportation performance measure to percent of regional active transportation corridor network built out. One thing I did forget to mention that is important when we are thinking about these targets is unlike the federal targets that have a 1-year span or a 2 to 4 year span, these targets, when we set them, are by 2055. So do keep that in mind when we're looking at these performance measures. We are proposing keeping the percent of non-SOV vehicle commuter trips, daily BMT per capita. We're also proposing keeping that as well. We then have projects not requiring any delays. So this is that same performance measure. We decided to flip it from a more negative statement to a positive statement. So looking at projects that require no delays.
Is that going to be like that percentage?
Yes. Not the percentage, but that is what we have envisioned. We then have travel time index on RSCs. And then I promised there was more acronyms. Truck travel time reliability on RSCs. And this is something that our model will be able to calculate. So this we'll be tracking this through our model. And truck travel time reliability. That is similar to travel time index. So how that is calculated is we look at the 95th percentile of travel time for trucks. We divide it by the 50 percentile travel time for trucks, and then it spits out a ratio. And similar to travel time index, the bigger the number, the more congestion or the less reliable. Like. Then we have a series of safety performance measures. This was comments that we did receive during the public comment period for the 2050 RTP. This is also in response to comments we received from planning council at that time, but we did not have the time to be able to incorporate it into the last plan. So we will be incorporating it, or with your approval, we'll be incorporating it into the next plan.
So how would we classify our e-bikes?
Yeah, well, I mean.
Oh, you actually, I was like, I was throwing that out there, but if you have an answer, I'm real impressed.
Kind of the issue, we're trying to figure out in our crash data, what is E? So a lot of times, some of that information lives in your crash narrative, which the NPO can't access, the general public can't access. So it's a little bit difficult to understand the E portion of how crashes are happening. Actually, at our next technical advisory committee meeting, we have someone from CDPHE who will be speaking to this. She does have access to crash narratives, and she works for the state and can access those records. So she'll be talking about Larimer and Weld counties, but she's also going to tie it to hospitalization records. So that is very difficult to understand with the crash data that at least comes from CDOT.
Yeah, I mean, I know in Tim that's some serious injuries with kids on electric scooters, for example. I see a lot of kids on sidewalks, streets, and the Pooter Trail on scooters.
Yeah. It's very difficult for us to know what is truly like an e-bike or an e-scooter versus it's difficult to tell. You don't get the whole picture.
No, I don't.
Yes.
To know that maybe we might build
By 2055.
by 2055.
If we're
We'll
looking,
have flying cars, so I mean.
For both, by 2055.
our. So. So for doing the safety performance measures is breaking it out by mode. So we have vehicular fatalities and serious injuries per capita. We have motorcycle fatalities and serious injuries per capita. And the reason why we have that is when looking at the data, we did see that a lot of the crashes do involve motorcycles, and motorcycles they're vulnerable road users, right?
By most definitions, they are not considered vulnerable road users. However, we see more like serious injury and fatal motorcycle crashes than pedestrian crashes.
That's something we'll look more into so that we can think of strategies how to get those numbers down. So as part of that, we are recommending have that be one of our performance measures so we can track that over time, so that we as a region can react and get those numbers down. And then we have bicycle fatalities per capita, bicycle serious injuries, and then the same for pedestrians. We then have total number of crashes, which our dashboard will help quite a bit with that number, and then transit ridership per capita. The next steps, I believe, we'll be bringing this back to council when there's a few more.
Yeah, one more, back to the transit ridership, so with those little rental scooters, is that included in transit?
No.
That it's not. So
So that would
this
be
is
technically like,
That other category that she.
So with transit ridership per capita, we decided to include this because this is one of our performance measures in our congestion management process. And whenever we have calculated that for the congestion management process, It's taking data directly from the transit agencies, so Greeley Evans Transit, Holt, and Transport only.
We can't help you there. We have no transit.
Oh, and Mustang, and Mustang.
Thinking those little scooters that are rented actually report to really Evans Transit, ones that they're using, agree with them. I just was wondering if it's considered transit.
That's part of our micro mobility is
Yes.
the communities
Yes.
call it.
Yeah.
I don't know that they call it transit, but I think they call it micro mobility and how they can use those resources for first last mile connections.
So it's kind of like quasi transit, quasi active transportation. It kind of exists at that intersection. The roadway one. Very big. Turns to next steps, we will be bringing this back to you all when we have a little bit more members of council here to be sure that we're getting, that this is all looking good before we get too far into the process. And then once we get that thumbs up, we will begin target setting. And when we do target setting, I'll be coming back to TAC and council to give an update on our current performance measures and the ones that are being carried over. And then as part of this process, we'll also be thinking of how we can incorporate this data into our planning processes and use it a little bit more so that it's not just us setting the target, it sits there and then resetting in 4 years. So that's also part of the process as we're thinking through setting the targets, is also how can we use this more frequently and be able to track the status of it more frequently than every 4 years.
And help us with our GHG report.
Yes, that's a big one.
Okay. So thankful you adopted the consent agenda tonight. Great start to lots of acronyms. Well done. Don't have a CISO with us this evening, but stack is written. Julie,
Yes,
have things to tell us about.
the US 34 coalition that meets whopping once a quarter. We met yesterday.
Yay.
Yay. It was great. And we had, Elizabeth did a wonderful presentation. So really on the US 34 corridor, can you believe that? All the little dots, the crashes. I think the biggest takeaway was that I got from your presentation, which was great, by the way, but you know, that she can take good pictures when someone else is. I have all the congestion on 34. Is that making sure the communities really make sure that we let the MPO know what we're planning and what we're zoning and make sure, you know, if we know this development's gonna go in here, and when we think the development will happen, because that really helps. And what their plans in their 2055 plans is knowing what's going on. And if we think that we want to expand a road, then maybe we shouldn't let them build right up to the edge of the road.
Right, that's the best, that's right there. That's
See,
the
I
way
did
to
it. But yeah, and if you want to be a 6-lane highway, or, you know, so I mean, it was a lot of good information up there. But I think everyone was really excited to watch US soccer. So we really zoomed through a lot of the meetings to make sure we made it to there. So yes, yay, what to say. GoNoco 34 TMO, actually then their new executive director, Nate, kind of gave a little thing of what's been going on with them, the Bike Everywhere Day, had a good turnout that they had for that. Had a US 34 TAC gave us a little report, and some other, the CDOT project updates and the rail crossing on 34. So just, it was a just good little packed meeting that we had a lot of information. So we'll be doing it again in October.
Yeah, and you guys, we're gonna schedule, Heather Paddock to present to you guys on the corridor, next month. Okay. Next month. So, there's, you know, they have their own kind of preservation study going on right now with the corridor, and we think it's a good time to just get an update in front of everybody. And you know, they're using our 2050 model. That was part of the reason why we gave the presentation yesterday, and we're getting ready to update our 2055. So we're asking all of your communities and your staff to provide updated information. And then, we look at the information that's coming in with the model from 2050, and they're trying to make adjustments based on data that your communities want to give us for 2055. And yet some of the roadway networks aren't aligning. And so that's kind of the concern of, I want to make sure that the community isn't identifying something in the 2050, but they are in 2055 or vice versa. They're identifying in 2050, but not in our 2055. We want to make them match and align as much as possible. And so, because we're starting that big data request for your communities, where this is where we ask a lot of time of your staff, and we appreciate them very much for all they provide us, because this becomes the foundation of our model that we use for the next 4 years, and for which then a lot of your communities pay consultants to utilize. So we're also trying to make it to where there's going to be a tool to where your communities can run scenarios as well. So maybe on some easier ones, you wouldn't necessarily have to.
That's my report then.
And our council member report, there's lots of fun things to tell us about what's happening in Johnstown.
I have a couple things. We are working through the realignment of High Plains Boulevard from Ronald Reagan Boulevard to Highway 34. This alignment will meander to the east, providing distance from the UP Railroad crossing on Highway 34. So right now we're working with Union Pacific on the ideal and preferred crossing design as part of the realignment. An IGA with Windsor, Greeley, Weld County, and Johnstown for the design element to ultimately construct a new interchange at Highway 34 and 17. And this illustrates the strength of collaboration in Northern Colorado and the real value and benefits we see in regional projects. Colorado Boulevard, which is a RSC, and it happens to be RSC 19, according to Joanne's map, which shows that I learned something tonight.
One of your goals.
It'll be updated and realigned as Colorado Boulevard intersects with County Road 50 in Weld County. A new roundabout will be installed at that intersection as part of a shared improvement estimated at 14 million. Weld County is providing 10. Johnstown's providing 2.6 and an STBG grant in the amount of 1.63 million. And Larimer County is providing $16,695. The state approved a devolution agreement that will dedicate the frontage road to the town of Johnstown. We have 90 days to finalize the IGA and adopt a resolution to accept the road pursuant to the terms. And other happenings around town, Boondocks is going to be building a roughly 70,000 square foot facility with bowling, arcade, laser tag, water bumper boats. That is estimated to be completed in Q3 of 27. Texas Roadhouse is coming over in that same area, expected around Q3 of 27 as well. Construction continues on an $85 million water treatment expansion that will expand our capacity from 6 million gallons a day to 10.5. And a planned test to bring the facility up to 12 million gallons a day. Pilot testing starts in late September, substantial completion in January of 27. In September, we hope to break ground on a new senior center facility. That is expected to be completed in 2027 and about a quarter-mile south here. We are working on our fiscal year 2027 budget, and one of the higher priority items will be the construction of new trail segments to establish better connectivity between the subdivisions into downtown. And that is a huge quality of life element that we have been consistently hearing from the community. And recently, Bill and some of the other members of the Chamber of Commerce came and visited town council and talked about expanding the Loveland Chamber in towards Johnstown. So we look forward to that.
The Greater Loveland Johnstown Area Chamber of Commerce.
Nice. I like that.
So we're excited about that.
How's your new golf course?
I have not gone yet.
My son said it's really,
Really? Well, that's good then.
yeah,
Need a challenge, right?
yeah,
Right? Lots going on in Johnstown.
yeah. Well, thank you
Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.
for dinner. Well, thank you. Happy 4th of July to everyone. Join us next month in Eden. I'll be there. Good thing. So, thank you all so much though for taking time tonight and for being flexible as we're ever evolving with tonight's agenda. So thank you very much and enjoy. Meeting adjourned.